Hey guys and girls, it's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. We have a Partscaster on the bench today. This is an ongoing project. I've done a lot of work on it. I'm going to walk you through kind of what we've done so far and what got us to the juncture we're at. And we'll go from there. Let's get to work. Remember, if you dig what I'm doing, like and subscribe. It was a kit guitar. A customer approached me. Said I need a setup on my guitar, and he gave me, okay, where's the guitar? And he gave me a box, and in the box was the body, this blue body, and this neck, okay, and this is the neck that he provided me and wanted it put on. It had not been set, it had not been drilled, nothing. I tried to set this neck into this body. It will not accept. I don't know what the brand of this is. It was a kit guitar as far as I'm aware, from what I could glean from the customer. The neck pocket in this guitar and the neck angle that is, in this neck would not work. It's got a locking nut on its system, and he wanted it because it was a long scale with the extra octave down here. I tried everything. I actually had it mounted on the guitar, set in the neck pocket, and started to string it up, and I could not. I tried shimming it. I took this neck on and off 3 times, tried shimming it, tried to get it to where we could make it playable. It was a fail. There's too many things with this neck, and apparently it was I think he said he got it on eBay, or he bought it from there's no markings on it, there's no brand or anything, no serial numbers, so yeah, that's okay. I understand that. I put all kinds of guitars together, but that neck will not work on this body, so I digress. We're going to move on. This is actually the 3rd neck that's been on this guitar. I have a donor neck for strats that I use in mock-ups, builds, what have yous, and I took the neck that I had, set the guitar up, got it playing perfectly, and go, okay, well, this body will accept a Fender style, that neck is a MIM. It's a made in Mexico truss rod adjustment down here. It's a really nice neck, but I was not willing to donate it because I've got too much into this project already. That's another story. I'm trying to do as much on the arm as I can for this customer, but we're not going to get into that. What we're going to say is this is a Mighty Mite neck, which is licensed by Fender. I sourced it, and I'm not afraid to say it. I sourced it through StuMac. So, and I've used these necks before. They're excellent necks. Does that mean it may not need some extra work? I won't know that until I get it strung up. It took me a little bit of work to get it set. They are not pre-drilled because, you don't know what body, when they manufacture these necks, what body they're going to go into. These are necks that are built to Fender specifications and licensed by Fender for replacement. But in this particular neck, in this particular body, so far it's working nicely. I did a mock-up on string spacing and pickup spacing and got it where I like it, drilled it, set it. We are moving on to putting in the tuners. Then we're going to put a set of strings on it and go from there. And from there, we're going to worry about setup. And we're going to then have to address if there's any high frets or anything like that, because sometimes when you buy a neck, unless you're spending a considerable amount of money, and this one was not a considerable amount of money. In fact, I would consider it not so much a budget neck. You can get much cheaper necks than this. This one was in the $150 to $200 range. A MIM is going to cost you $250 to $300, whatever. I mean, you can go crazy with necks. I've used these. I've had really good results with them. Do they need a little extra tweaking? Sometimes. There may be a fret leveling in this next future. We don't know, but we'll address that as it comes. Wiring and everything was already done when I put the donor neck on it. I did a complete setup and for that neck and got it good. So I know everything down here is correct. This is a different neck. It's not going to be exactly like the other neck, but it should be really, really, really close. So we have the tuners that came with the customer's guitar. They came with a kit, he said, that he bought the body and everything. So I have already taken the time to set them. And I am just double checking to make sure that they're nicely spaced before I drill. And put the screws in. And that's where we're at right now. Take time and take care to get the right drill bit for the right screw. If you under drill the pilot hole and you start putting these really small screws in to maple, the maple is hard wood, and it will, if you have to take that screw back out, they'll snap, they'll break, and yeah, you got a heartache on your hands. So take care to drill. I'm using the smaller drill bit first, and I'm going to test one of the screws, but I'm pretty sure I'll be all right. And they're pretty small screws. I mean, we all know what holds on the tuners. If it seems like it's too tight and it doesn't want to go in and snug up, if it's too tight, redo it and put a better one in. That went right in. That went right in. I think I got the right combination here. I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of them. Make sure that you don't want to tighten them up all the way because you still have to kind of tighten up the nut on the other side, the bushing nut. So let's do them all. Now, there is a template tool that you can use for most of these fender necks, or any kind of neck for that matter. I have one kicking around here. Couldn't find the darn thing. It's made specifically to go in all of the holes, and it gives you a punch out for your. It gives you a punch out to put your screw holes in it, so you know exactly where to drill. But I've done it this way a million times, and it works just fine if you know what you're doing. And again, if you're drilling your pilot holes and you're putting your screw in, and it seems like you're really putting a lot of pressure on it and it doesn't want to go in, then it's probably too tight. Like that one needs to be a little deeper. And you learn this over the years. You think you want your screw super, super tight in the hole, but not so much, because if it's too tight, if you have to take it out, the head will snap right off, and then you got a real problem on your hands. Over drilling, trying to get the stud out of the wood. You should be able to push them in relatively easily with just your thumb and forefinger. You're not building a Harley Davidson. You do not need to be torqued to 50 foot-pounds. These screws are only meant to hold the tuner from swiveling when you tighten it from the other side. And I think we're good on all of those. Yeah, I like that. Put your drill bit away. And then the other side is a 10 millimeter right there. That's your bushing nut. That's it. That's all it takes. It just needs to be snug. It doesn't need to be super over tight. And every time you restring your guitar, you're going to check those. If they come loose or the wood shrinks or what have you, okay, tighten them up a little bit. No big deal. I'm going to pause while I get a set of strings for this thing. I'm going to get them run through the back, and we're going to string it up, and then we're going to see how this neck is going to respond. Stand by. So far so good. I strung it up. I left some extra strings. This is literally the third neck and the fourth time I've actually strung this guitar up. I did a complete setup before. Now, we're going to find out. I have not adjusted the neck. I have not adjusted string height or intonation or any of that stuff. Only with the old neck that was on it. My mock-up neck, my donor neck. So the first thing we're going to check is neck relief. And remember, this neck, Mighty Mite, licensed by Fender, right out of the box. I'll see where it is set. I looked at it when I first got it, and it was bone straight. It's perfect at 12 thousandths at the 7th fret. I'm not going to need to adjust that yet. We have 10s on it. I'm impressed with that so far. Now, I tuned it, and we're getting the same amount of lift off the bridge and stability from the donor neck. And it pops right back to tune. Now remember, these are brand new strings, so they're going slightly flat each time I bend with the whammy bar, but so far I'm impressed. I mean, I've used these necks before, and I'll tell you, if you can't afford or don't want to spend $500 or $400 or even $300, look at the Mighty Mite necks. So, not done yet. No, this one could still throw me a curveball, but so far, my setup from before, the string spacing, the pickup where the strings go over the pickups, I took a lot of care and time in making sure that we were set properly here. And I've got perfect string spacing because these necks are built to Fender specs. I wouldn't expect anything less as long as you take care in how you're drilling and setting your neck. That's important. That's hugely important. That's another video, but I digress. I will promise I will show you that in another video, but that's very time consuming and you really have to commiserate over it. This neck pocket in this particular body is not a Fender. This is an off-brand. And the neck was really loose and Katie Wampus in there. It did not, you want your neck to go and kind of be a little snug in that pocket. Fender to Fender, that's what you'll find. And usually, once you mock it up, you know, with a couple of strings, your high E and your low E, your string spacing should be almost dead on. But with something like this where you're doing a Partscaster, nondescript body with an oversized neck pocket, oversized, and I'm saying by like a third of a millimeter. I mean, I can only barely slide a 4/1000 feeler gauge in there on each side, but that's where I had it centered, and that's how I checked it when I got back done. So it is secured and tight in there. It's not going to move because, you know, the bolts will hold it in place. You got 4 of them on the back. But as far as setup goes, it's time to move on to string height. We know the neck relief is good. String height is next, and then we're going to get into intonation, and we're even getting stability, you know. And from the original setup, yeah, I mean my trem is actually hanging tough. I got just the right amount of lift there. I may have to lower it slightly between the last neck and this one, but really it's well within specs. It's right there. It's less than 1/8 of an inch. So string height, I'm really curious about. I have not checked for high frets yet, but I want to get my string height to where I can start checking for buzzing if there's going to be any. And our string height is at 5, 5, 5. So it's so weird that from my donor neck, which was a Mexican neck, and the Mighty Mite neck, I set it up. All I did was bolt this neck on, check the string, the neck relief, and checked our string height. And guess what? It's 5 all the way across, which is where I had it set before. So this neck is built to the same specs that Fender, you know, ensures whenever you buy a Fender product. That's why I like Mighty Mite. I'm not gonna rail on that anymore. Let's check for the last thing we want to do. Well, of course, we're going to plug it in and play it, but I want to check for buzzing. We're getting some acoustic buzz. Only on the E. So high frets, none. We're getting some 12th, between the 7th and 12th, buzzing on the low E. But no acoustically, I'm saying. We got no high fret buzz, and that is encouraging. And when I say some buzzing here in this zone acoustically, you'll never hear that through the amp. And if I have to, I'll put an 1/8 of a turn on the string height for the low E, but at this point, at this juncture, I wouldn't even bother doing that. I'm not going to do it. I'll tell you right from the get-go, because I know as soon as I plug this thing in, it's going to be golden. Got to bring our pickups up slightly. That's basic setup stuff. Get them up there where they're supposed to be in that sweet spot. Which is, as you know, 1/8 and 3/32. And yeah, you can't go too close and you can't be too far away. You need to be in that magnetic field where it's perfect. Last thing I'm going to check is first fret action. I'd like to see it around 20 thousandths to 18 thousandths. I don't hear any open string buzzing, which is encouraging. Again, pretty familiar with these necks, and they're usually pretty stout. Bear with me. That one's still a little high. I'm such a nut about pickup height. It's one of the most overlooked adjustments on a guitar. You overlook it, and it's important. You can't be too far away. You can't be too close. It's a magnetic field, and for those magnetic pickups to work properly, they need to be in that sweet spot. So let's check our first string spacing. First, I'm going to check at 20 thousandths. First fret. So far, they're at about 20. Yeah. E, A, D are pretty good at 20 thousandths. G, B, and high E are a little too far away, but I am not going to adjust that yet until the guitar settles. Because you're talking about, it's barely touching 20 thousandths. I'm going to call that okay. I'm not going to get into cutting nut slots just yet. I mean, they look pretty good, and they're sounding good. Yeah, you don't want to grind on that. If you're around 20 thousandths to 18 thousandths, you're good. Where are we going from here? I'd like to know where. Dead on. I always like to check, you know, when you get your open E is set there, and then you check your G. If that thing is going way sharp, you've got a problem in intonation somewhere. And same with your C. Boy, that's dead on. This should be F. Oh man. So where is our El Perfecto? Now remember, I set the intonation with my donor neck, my mock-up neck before, and that was a Fender Mexican neck, and our intonation is exactly where I had it set, which means the specs on this neck are exactly like that Mexican neck, and that's what you want. So it is, well, the high E is a little off. It's a little flat. Not sharp, which it's usually sharp, so we need to adjust that. flat, which means the distance between the nut and the saddle is too far. I need to get it closer. Dead on. All it took was a couple of turns on that screw. I love it. I know we're getting a little long on this video, but the last thing I want to do is play it. Yeah, I think so. I'm waiting for a new benchtop amp to come. This little Bluetooth guy isn't quite cutting it. I've got a new benchtop amp to play with. Let me put my camera down here a little bit. Staying in tune. And this is what I was talking about. You want your G chord to be able to play the low E note on the G when you're fretting a G chord. And you want to be able to do your E. A lot of times I get guitars and you fret a G and the G note right here at the G fret where you're fretting a G chord is out of tune, and if you tune it to that G chord and then you check your E chord, it's not, one or the other is in tune but not both at the same time. So for a cheap guitar, and I've seen, you know, $2,000 guitars come through the shop, Stratocasters, American-made Corona Stratocasters, and you fret a G chord, and then you fret, you know, an E major, and one will be in tune, and you tune up to that chord. You figure all the guitars out of tune, and then when you fret the other one, it's out. You can't get them both, and that's a neck twisted intonation issue. I've chased it and chased it and chased it. Some guitars do it, some don't. But this guitar is ready to play. I'm going to let it hang. Nice little guitar. Nothing wrong with it. This is going to be a nice player for a long time. And it's coming right back into tune. And amazingly, this setup almost stayed identical from one neck to another, which not only says, okay, I know what I'm doing, but it says a lot about, again, I'm going to say it, Mighty Mite necks. Okay? Yeah, it's an entry-level cheap neck. When I got it, it was bone dry. I already treated it with linseed oil, and you can see just how nice, you know, the board looks. It's got some character. It was dry. I mean, it literally looked like that when I got it, you know. But I already treated it, so focus up. I'm going to call this a success. I'm going to let it hang for a day or two, and then I'm going to come back and check the tuning and all the setup and everything. Let it settle. And of course, I'm going to check all the hardware to make sure that everything's nice and snug and tight. But this guitar is ready to go back to the customer. I've had it for a month almost, and he's been very patient. I'm very pleased with the results. It's Blackjack with 396 guitars, little blue Partscaster, Stratocaster, call it what you want. Excellent little player. We'll talk soon.